Focus the mind at the heart center and think of the Divine Supreme dwelling on the lotus. Let us pray to that Supreme Consciousness, the light of all lights, the source of bliss, the source of knowledge, the substratum of everything, the all-pervading, supreme light. Let us keep the mind at the heart center, looking into that mellow light, and pray for the welfare, for the peace and joy of the whole universe. Shanti Shanti Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Stavakaya Chadharmasya Sarvadharmaswarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namaha. Asato ma sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Pratyormamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us bow down to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to remove all our ignorance, to lead us from darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Sri Ramakrishna said, you must cherish love of God within your heart. Once you are able to do that, you will get realization, highest experience of samadhi, and you get life's fulfillment. In order to cultivate the love of God, the practice of detachment is very essential. Detachment forms a strong base for the higher life of spirituality. So, we have been discussing this discipline of detachment in the last two classes. How it is significant, how it plays a very important role in our spiritual life. The practice of detachment, it must be done. Without detachment, no unfoldment of spiritual glory. It becomes easier if we know the mental processes involved in it. When we speak of attachment or detachment, to which aspect of our personality does it apply? It can't be the physical body, as it is always an independent entity which can't be attached to anything. Could it be mind? But mind is a nebulous term used to cover several aspects of mental life. If we analyze our thoughts, if we analyze our actions carefully, we find that attachment and detachment refer to the will. It is a will that is bound, and it is the will that has to be detached. So I am pinpointing, I am taking you step by step towards the practice of detachment. There are some popular notions about will. They are vague, they are varied. A great German experimental psychologist, his name is Wundt, W-U-N-D-T. He came to the conclusion, after conducting a large number of experiments, that what was generally called will was nothing but instinct. A man decides to get up very early in the morning and sets his alarm clock accordingly. When the alarm goes, he finds it difficult to get up. If this happened day after day, he comes to the conclusion that he lacks the will to get up. But suppose he has to catch the early morning train, or suppose he was to go for an exam, then what would he do? He would get up even without the help of the alarm. perhaps earlier than necessary. If he has to wake up at 6 o'clock, probably he might wake up at 5:30. What has happened in this case is that one instinct, fear, has conquered another instinct, laziness. Most of our actions are controlled by instincts which roughly correspond to the samskaras of the Hindu psychology. So, true will rarely comes into operation. Then what is true will? In Sanskrit it is called ichcha. Ichcha. The Gita uses another word to denote will. It's called dhriti. According to Hindu psychology, will is not a separate faculty. It is inseparable from I consciousness. The great Shankaracharya says, will is another function of buddhi, the intuitive faculty in us. So will is the intuitive faculty in us. Dhritirapi vritti vishesha eva buddhehe. I consciousness is a static aspect and will is the dynamic aspect of buddhi. I don't know how to translate this buddhi in English. They translate it as intellect. Will may be said to be a focusing or movement of I consciousness. Just as pure consciousness is distinct from thoughts, distinct from senses, so also is will intrinsically separate from them. But in most of our ordinary desires and actions, will is so closely identified with them that it is very difficult to distinguish between will and instinct. How comes this identification? Next question. You know, there is a Sanskrit word all of you are familiar with. It's called prana. Prana. That is cosmic energy. It is constantly activating the samskaras. What is samskaras? The latent impressions of past experiences. So it is constantly activating these impressions in our mind. And what we call desires are the sprouting of some of these. That's why Lord Krishna says in the Gita, Kama esha, Krodha esha, Rajo guna samudbhavaha. This lust, this anger, where do they originate from? They originate from Rajas, Rajo guna samudbhavaha, where Rajas is referred to cosmic energy. In this way, hundreds of desires arise in us, but we are aware of only a few at a time. Mere rising of a desire is not troublesome. It becomes troublesome only when the will goes and looks it. The movement of eye consciousness is will, I told earlier. Only then does a desire get connected to the eye. Then the desire becomes a sankalpa, meaning intention. Behind every action, physical or mental, there is an intention. If the will is not connected to it, the desire cannot affect us. It remains in the field of consciousness for a short time and then it disappears. In Mahabharata, in Shanti Parva, it says, Kama janami te moolam sankalpat kila jayase natvam sankalpayishyami samulastvam vinangshyase. The meaning is, O desire, I have understood your root cause. You are caused by intention. If I don't make any intention, then you will be destroyed with your roots. That's the meaning of that quotation from Mahabharata. Lord Krishna also says in the Gita, Sankalpa prabhavan kaman. Desires are produced by intentions. Every day, we make so many sankalpas and strive to fulfill them. And this is the main cause for our attachment and connected problems. So, in order to stop making intentions, we have to detach the will from desires, which are produced by the stored up impressions. This is what detachment really means. When this takes place, what happens? We remain a witness of our thoughts, witness of our desires, and witness of our actions without being affected by them. So that is the value of detachment. Since the sprouting of impressions into desires is caused by the movement of cosmic energy, the rise of desires can be checked for the time being by the practice of pranayama, breath control. Breath control, it's a big science. It has got the power to make the impressions inactive. A similar effect is produced by certain drugs which inactivate some centers in the brain, the physical medium of mind, resulting in a kind of euphoria. But neither breath control nor drugs affect the will. And as long as the will remains perverse, untrained, attached, one can never free himself from desires. For when the effect of breath control or drugs wears off, the impressions sprout again perhaps with redoubled force. Impressions can be destroyed completely only by the light of higher spiritual experience. Till this takes place, the will has to be detached from samskaras through discrimination and intense aspiration or love of God. When the samskaras do not get any support from the will, they gradually become inactive and reduced to the tanu state. That means attenuated state. Only then will desires stop haunting us. Otherwise, we are all hunted by desires, haunting. We are bothered by desires and desires and desires. Sri Shankaracharya says, he defines very intelligently. He says, yoga, that means union, is really viyoga, disunion. Yoga is viyoga, Shankaracharya says. How? In the state of viyoga, the yogi is disconnected from all troubles. Yogamiti manyante viyogame vasantam sarvanartha sanyoga viyoga lakshana iyam avastha yoginaha. In other words, yoga always presupposes detachment. Meditation is not ordinary thinking. People use this term very commonly. Even for thinking small things, they say, I was meditating. Like that. Meditation is not ordinary thinking. It is fully conscious focusing of the will. Conscious focusing of the will on an object at a definite spiritual center. For this, the will must first of all be detached from desires. It should be detached from ideas. Next, the scattered powers of the will are to be unified. And then the unified will must be directed on to the spiritual center. Of these steps, the first one is the most difficult. Once the will is detached, it can be directed towards any object. A will enslaved by desires and the senses has no power. But when it is detached and concentrated, it acquires tremendous power, like a laser beam. It is this free and powerful will that is the wealth of the yogi. As long as the will is attached to desires, any attempt to increase willpower will only result in the strengthening of desires, strengthening of instincts only. The willpower comes only through detachment. So, detachment is an unavoidable preparatory discipline in the practice of all forms of yoga. Karma yoga. It is detachment and work. Bhakti yoga. It is detachment and love. Jnana yoga. It is detachment and knowledge. Detachment is a common factor, common discipline. Without discipline, no yoga is done. So detachment cannot be practiced by imagination. It has to be actively worked out and tested in day-to-day life. Hence, Karma Yoga is the first yoga to be practiced before other yogas are taken up. The difference between love for human beings and love for God is that the love for human beings is based on attachment, whereas the love for God is based on detachment. That's the difference. Bhakti, devotion, is nothing but a purified will directed towards a personal God. Detachment is not like making a broad jump. It takes place in stages. It is true that in the lives of a few people, a sudden conversion wrenches the soul away from the hold of the world in one jerk. But even in such cases, the process takes some time to complete itself. As we progress in spiritual life, we find that our concept of detachment also is changing. There are stages in the progress of detachment, and they give an indication of the degree of unfolding of our consciousness. According to the yogis, detachment takes place in 4 stages. The first stage is called yatamana. That is, it is based on effort. It represents the beginner's attempt to get rid of desires by the practice of discrimination, by the practice of austerity and self-surrender to God. Second stage is called Vyatireki. It is based on difference. That is, the aspirant gains the understanding. So many of my past samskaras have been destroyed, and now only these few are left. The third stage is called Ekendriya. It is based on one sense organ. All external sense organs have been brought under control. Only the internal sense organ, namely the mind, is now active. There remains only a memory of past experiences. The will is no longer a slave of desires, but it is still not fully turned to the higher spiritual center. This is a state of restraint in which the aspirant, free from sense pleasure, experiences the joy of self-control. Meditation now becomes steady and effortless. The last stage, 4th stage, is called Vashikara. It is based on conquest. The will is fully detached and has free mobility. It can now be deployed by the yogi in any way he likes. It is at this stage that meditation matures into samadhi. Being psychological states, these stages are common to all the yogas, to all the spiritual paths. These stages are to be gone through to maintain a steady meditative life and attain any real spiritual experience and fulfillment. Modern life is becoming so complex and full of stress that without a certain degree of detachment, it is now difficult to lead even a normal, peaceful, secular life. And for spiritual aspirants, detachment should become a way of life. His guiding principle should be that set by the Gita. Lord Krishna has said, Saktaha karmanya vidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata kuryad vidvamsada saksashikirshul lokasangraham. As the ignorant act attached to their work, so should a wise one act without attachment for the welfare of the world. This is the anatomy of detachment. We should pay great importance to the practice of detachment. To the extent you practice the value of detachment, to that extent you enjoy peacefulness in yourself. So, make the detachment a strong base. Then only you can build up higher spiritual life. Then only there is hope to free yourself from all botherations and troubles. The way is shown, the path is clear, methods are given, practice should be done. So finally it comes to practice. Each individual should have to make tremendous effort to fight these samskaras, these impressions stored up in the mind, giving troubles every now and then. You have to become strong, you have to assert your strength, then you will understand spiritual glory stage by stage. Let us follow these instructions which Sri Ramakrishna has given us in the Gospel. Practice them wholeheartedly. Never complain about anything. Never bother about anything. Only turn the mind towards cleansing yourself properly and reaching the goal, seeing the Supreme God face to face. God is real, God is present, God can be seen. His object is objectified as personal God. As long as I remain an individual, there is personal God for me. So, and that God is all loving, kind-hearted, full of bliss, full of joy. So, give importance to the practice of spirituality. Repeat divine name of God. Live pure, honest, moral life. Follow the spiritual instructions of the spiritual masters and reach the goal. $520. Master said, when Niranjan said that Devendranath paid off all his father's debts, Master said in reply, keep quiet, don't torment me anymore. Do you call anyone a man who does not pay off his father's debts if he is able to? But I admit that Devendranath is infinitely greater than the worldly men who are sunk in their worldliness. They can learn much from him. There is an ocean of difference between a real all-renouncing devotee of God and a household devotee. A real sannyasi, a real devotee who has renounced the world is like a bee. The bee will not light on anything but a flower. It will not drink anything but honey. But a devotee leading the worldly life is like a fly. The fly sits on a festering sore as well as on the sweet meat. One moment he enjoys a spiritual mood, and the next moment he is beside himself with pleasure of lust and gold. A devotee who has really and truly renounced all for God is like the chatak bird. It will drink only the rainwater that falls when the star Swati is in the ascendant. It will rather die of thirst than touch any other water. Though all around there may lie 7 oceans and rivers full to the brim with water. An all-renouncing devotee will not touch lust and gold. He will not keep lust and gold near him, lest he should feel attached. Others said, but Chaitanya too enjoyed the world. Master, amazed, what? What did he enjoy in the world? Other, scholarship, honor. Master said, it was an honor in the sight of others, but nothing to him. Whether you, a deputy magistrate, or this youngster Niranjan, honors me, it is all the same to me. And I tell you this truthfully. The idea of controlling a wealthy man never enters my mind. Surendra once said, rather condescendingly, that Rakhal's father could sue me for letting Rakhal stay with me. When I heard this from Manamohan, I said, who is this Surendra? How does he dare make a remark like that? He keeps a carpet and pillow here and gives me some money. Is that his excuse for daring to make such an impudent remark? Others said, I understand that he gives 10 rupees a month. Isn't that so? Master said, that covers 2 months' expenses. The devotees stay here and he gives the money for their service. It is he who earns the merit. What's that to me? Is it for my personal gain that I love Narendra, Rakal and the others? Master Yam said, your love for them is like a mother's love for her children. Master said, but even behind the mother's love lies her hope that the children will support her later on. But I love these youngsters because I see in them Narayana himself. These are not mere words. To other, he said, listen, there is no sanctity, there is no scarcity of motes when the lamp is lighted. When God is realized, he himself provides everything for his devotees. He sees that they do not lack anything. When God is enshrined in the heart, many people come forward to offer their services. Once a young sannyasi went to a household to beg his food. He had lived as a monk from his very birth. I think I read all these things. Doesn't matter. Repetition is also good. He knew nothing of worldly matters. A young daughter of the householder came out to give him alms. He turned to her mother and said, Mother, has this girl abscesses on her chest? The mother said, no, my child, God has given her breasts to nurse her child when she becomes a mother. Thereupon the sannyasi said, then why should I worry about myself? Why should I beg my food? He who has created me will certainly feed me. Listen, if a woman renounces everything for her paramour, she can say to him, if need be, you wretch, I shall sit on your chest and devour you. Nangta told me of a certain king who gave a feast to the sadhus using plates and tumblers of gold. I noticed in the monasteries at Benares with what great respect the abbots were treated. Many wealthy up-country people stood before them with folded hands, ready to obey their commands. But a true sadhu, a man who has really renounced everything, seeks neither a gold plate nor honor. God says that he lacks nothing. God gives the devotee everything that is needed for realizing him. To other he said, you are an executive officer. What shall I say to you? Do whatever you think best. I am an illiterate person. Other, smiling to the devotees, said, now he is examining me. Master said smilingly, dispassion alone is good. Don't you see, I didn't sign the receipt for my salary. God alone is real and all else is illusory. Hazra entered the room and sat with the devotees on the floor. Hazra repeated now and then, Soham, Soham, I am he, I am he. To Latu and others, he often said, what does one gain by worshipping God with offerings? That's merely giving him things that are his already. He has said this once to Narendra. The master spoke to him. Master said, I explained to Latu who the object of the devotee's worship is. Hazra said, the devotee really prays to his own self. Master said, what you say is a very lofty thought. The aim of spiritual discipline, of chanting God's name and glories, is to realize just that. A man attains everything when he discovers his true self in himself. The object of sadhana is to realize that. That also is the purpose of assuming a human body. One needs the clay mold as long as the gold image has not been cast. But when the image is made, the mold is thrown away. The body may be given up after the realization of God. God is not only inside us, He is both inside and outside. The Divine Mother showed me in the Kali temple that everything is Chaitanya, the embodiment of spirit, that it is she who has become all this. The image, myself, the utensils of worship, the doorsill, the marble floor, everything is indeed Chinmaya. The aim of prayer, of spiritual discipline, of chanting the name and glories of God is to realize just that. For that alone, a devotee loves God. These youngsters are on a lower level. They haven't yet reached a high spiritual state. They are following the path of bhakti. Please don't tell them such things as I am he. Let us stop here. So exercise of willpower is needed very much. Disconnect the will from the desires. Strengthen the will so that all the scattered forces are unified in the power of the will. So, as you develop your will, so will be your spiritual progress. It's all very easy. Any questions to ask? Elena, Partha? Icha. Will means icha. 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 That is Sanskrit word for will. Practicing austerity and surrendering to the divine will, the divine supreme. That's the way. Any more? Do you have any question? No. Partha? Yeah. Take the mic.
You list 4 stages of detachment, and I didn't really catch the spelling of those 4 stages. You said 4 stages of detachment.
One is self-effort, based on self-effort.
Okay.
And
Are those Sanskrit words?
yeah, you want the Sanskrit word also?
Yes.
Yeah. The first, in the beginning you have to make effort, So that stage is called yatamana. Y-A-T-A-M-A-N-A. Yatamana.
Okay.
That is, in the beginning you have to struggle through discrimination. You have to keep on discriminating what is wrong, what is right, etc. And you have to undertake certain austerities. And you have to surrender yourself to God. All these come under yatamana. That is the first stage. That is, the stress is on effort, personal effort.
Okay.
The second stage is called Vyatireki. V-Y-A-T-I-R-E-K-I. That is, it is based on difference. That is, while practicing, the aspirant gains an understanding. He is able to differentiate so many of my past karma, that is, past samskaras, that have been destroyed. He gets an experience that he is less bothered by the force of the samskaras. And he becomes aware of the fact, still there are some forces, still there are some impressions which are to be removed. So that is the stage of Vyatireki. The third one is Ekendriya state, that is based on the one organ, that is the mind. So in this stage he has full control about all other organs, ear, eyes, etc. He is not tempted by looking, he is not disturbed by hearing, and so on. All the external senses are perfectly under his control. The only organ that is to be handled is mind. There remains only a memory of past experiences. In this stage, the aspirant knows his will is no longer a slave of desires. He is not running after the desires, even though desires come, he just doesn't care for them. But still he has not turned to the higher spiritual center. So this is a state of restraint in which the aspirant, free from the external sense pleasure, experiences the joy of self-control. Even the act of having led a spiritual discipline gives him wonderful joy. So, in this stage, he can handle the mind effectively. Then meditation becomes steady and easy. The last stage is called Vashikara, V-A-S-I-K-A-R-A. The will is fully detached and it has free mobility. It can now be deployed by the yogi in any way he likes. It is at this stage he has attained maturity, he is able to enter into the final stage of samadhi. He is able to get into that highest state of bliss any moment. That is the fourth stage, Vashika. So these are the 4 stages.